Hi everybody, I'm Zach and I like movies, and I'm here with another Letterboxd Criterion Challenge video for 2024. And today's prompt was number 14, the random number generator. Just hit a random number in Google and review the title with the corresponding number. And the number I came up with was number 652. And this was a movie that was made by one of, if not the biggest name of the silent film era, Sir Charles Chaplin. Much loved and very famous for his down-in-his-luck rapscallion character, the Tramp, and with his and very, very famous and very imitable for his dancer-like physical comedy. Like just hit after silent film comedy, essential, one after the other, from the Gold Rush to the Kid to modern times. One of the greatest silent film comedies ever made. But eventually the pictures started talking, and Chaplin adjusted much slowly. He was very hesitant to give up the silent comedy. But eventually he did adapt, and eventually he was approached by the god Orson Welles, who approached him with an idea for a movie about a French serial killer named Henri Desiré Landru. He was a bank teller who married numerous wealthy widows and then killed them after fleecing them of all of their money. And over time, the idea gradually became a comedy of manners and a comedy of murder. It became Monsieur Verdoux. So what's interesting about Verdoux in sort of just general overview of it is that Chaplin was inverting basically everything that made him famous, like with the Tramp, right? Because Monsieur Henry Verdoux, though is it Henri or is it Henry? The characters of the movie kind of go back and forth on it, but that does seem intentional. Sure. Because Verdoux is a diabolical Machiavel with this sweet upper class gentleman affectation. If you look at Chaplin's work as the Tramp, a lot of it focuses on his little destitute trying to escape poverty into some middle class of sort. And in later films like Verdoux, and especially his 1952 film Limelight, are about an elite man trying to reclaim a lost status, or at least maintain some sort of lost status. In Limelight, it was a famous clown trying to regain, some limelight. And in Verdoux, it's a bank teller who's trying to keep himself financially in the upper class. And he said, he introduces himself the film opens on a graveyard of with his grave in it, and the Verdoux narrates and greets himself very politely. As you see, my real name is Henri Verdoux, and for 30 years I was an honest bank clerk, until the Depression of 1930, in which year I found myself unemployed. It was then I became occupied in liquidating members of the opposite sex. This he did as a strictly business venture to support home and family. But let me assure you that the career of a Bluebeard is by no means profitable. Only a person with dauntless optimism would embark on such a venture. Sure, and it is interesting the way that he kind of justifies that, because he do commit murder, and that we see and is often implied very heavily off screen. But the way Verdoux kind of goes about justifying it to himself and eventually others and to the audience is that he's trying to make it seem like it's all like the ends justify the means. Sure, he has a happy family with a son and an invalid wife to care for, but their presence, especially in the movie, is really more just an excuse to justify his crimes. He doesn't kill to make them happy. He really just kills to make ends meet, no matter the means. And the way that he rationalizes business is really set up. And I'm kind of jumping forward here, but the way that Verdoux justifies his murder spree is that he sort of sees himself as likens the way that he murders to like the way that big businesses do, and his politeness and charming demeanor as he dispatches with widow after widow, and kind of becomes this. It kind of winds up being the showcase of the formality of capitalism's evils. What's a dozen or so women's lives taken for one man's success compared to the many more taken in war or big business? It's sort of like a very much more grimmer conclusion to like some of these like capitalist critical ideas that he was working on since he fell between the gears in modern times. But times, and again, I am jumping very heavily because, but I do have to focus on like what makes Verdoux such an interesting character especially in terms of like Chaplin's usual repertoire, and even in comparing to like what he did with his other talkies. And he's like the best comparison would be The Great Dictator, another one of his like masterworks. And it's always interesting why Chaplin was so hesitant to do talkies, because Chaplin actually had a very nice voice. It's very like kind of an upper class British accent, and it's a very delightful voice, and he can use his voice very effectively. And like Verdoux is quite the chatterbox. But and the way and like what he says can kind of be very bone chilling too. There's a point where in the film where Verdoux is planning out to poison one of his wives. Who I'll get to her in a minute. She's a real hoot, and he concocts this little poison. He tries to test it out, see if it works. Poisons a bottle of wine, and he kind of shares a drink with the girl. She's credited as the girl, and she's played by, let me get her name. I just wrote it down. It's Marilyn Nash. Marilyn Nash plays the girl, and there typically is like, and in Chaplin films, there's generally like the girl, the love interest, the one that the tramp is like striving to like trying to woo, and they're typically modeled as these like very very sweet, very innocent, angelic women, and it's always, and especially here it feels a little. This feels like a little bit of an undercurrent of misogyny there, because like all of the wives that Verdoux dispatches of, they're all kind of nasty. Like one is like this like really really just like prickly spinster type. But the girl, and even on Henry's real wife, is they're sort of categorized in the same sort of like little angel type. And but as he's talking with the girl, Verdoux sort of like lets loose some of his personal philosophy, and how how he's sort of like taken by the sort of kinship he feels with the girl, because she lost a husband and she was like loose, and she was like kind of on the street. She was she was in prison for larceny, and he sort of like backs out on killing her, because he sort of sees a survivor in her. But what's different is that she has still maintained her sense of optimism. While Verdoux is just so it's cynical and so just arsenic. Like he has like a completely just like a bleak view of the world, and it sort of like comes out. It comes out in these moments where, like, not just when he's like trying to like coerce like his various brides to like empty their bank accounts for him, but like moments when he's just like sort of like finally like letting his guard down and like telling him how he really feels. Especially she's definitely a very pleasant standout, but absolutely the other big standout of the film is one of is probably the best of Verdoux's many wives. It's Annabella Bonaire, who is played by the great and hilarious Martha Raye. She is an absolute peach every time she's on screen. She has a real she was like a vaudeville veteran, a lot like Chaplin, and they had that great rapport with each other. And she has this kind of quality to her screen presence that reminded me a lot of Natasha Lyonne. She's a very free-spirited socialite type that tends to spend money faster than he can scheme to make more. Her scenes with him are really funny, and it is a really funny movie. Like really, you would expect that from Chaplin, but man, like the absolute gambit of emotions this movie goes through is really impressive. Just ping-ponging back and forth between these like lighthearted slapstick bits to this like terse, like dramatic moments to practically Hitchcockian suspense sequences. and sometimes even mixing them in the same. Like my favorite scene that amplifies this is when Verdoux is with Annabella after, and this is like the third time he's like trying to kill her. They're out on a rowboat on a fishing trip, and he's like he has like a rope, he has like a noose rope that he's like hiding, and like as she's turned around going fishing. She's very excited about fishing. He's like he takes the rope and he's like trying to like sneak it on her, and the way that his eyes just like it's the way that his eyes like focus into like focused intense murder, and then when she whips back he switches back and plays innocent, and this is like this great Chaplin smile that just kills me every time. It happens like 10 times in the same scene, and it never fails to make me laugh. And the way that she is so loud and so boisterous. She's just a very animating presence, especially when in the same scene with Verdoux, who's like tends to be much more like it's very intently with his is very intentional with his body language whenever he's and Chaplin is still like really great at that, as good as he is with his voice here. He's so very specific about the body language of Verdoux, like the way he's like sort of the way that he bows without ever bending his back, the way that he's like the very like rapid way that he counts money with his fingers, and it's so focused. You can tell that there is so much attention given to the detail of not just his physical performance, but like the rest of the casts too. And the range of emotions is just so. It's kind of a tiring movie at times, because especially towards the end when the real drama just like crashes in with like the depression hits and Henri loses everything, and wow, and then the war happens, and post World War II, which is a really significant portion of Chaplin's career, because at that point he was really hounded in the press and even by J. Edgar Hoover, who personally intervened to get his visa stripped from him. It was effectively banned out of the United States. But it's so by this point he's so just like kind of like a tired soul now. And in this part where he's like kind of lost everything, he lost his like child and wife, his actual wife and child, and when he meets the girl again, who and it's interesting because there is no like real emotionally satisfying payoff. Like in any other movie, you would have like Verdoux kind of like have a moment of reconciliation with her, but the only time they have something like this is when they meet again, and the girl has done well for herself, because she's married into an arms dealer who was like selling munitions for the war, war, and it's sort of like reinstating this very like, it's sort of like proving Verdoux's worldview that happiness only comes out of at the expense of other people's happiness, you know. And it's it's pretty bleak. And then they have this drink, and you know, he gets this very like chillingly ambiguous description of like what happened to him and his family. Like he says, soon after the crash, I lost my wife and child. However, they're much happier where they are than living in this world of fear and uncertainty. It's kind of like, what do you mean by that? There's sort of this, yeah, it sort of like does leave enough space to like let you think did he like kill them? Like he lost them, but like what does he mean by that? and yeah, it's just a really finely tuned virtuosic performance. It's fantastically bitter. Like the ending is really great, and how kind of grim it is. And this is especially compared to something like compared to his big rousing humanist speech in The Great Dictator, where it's this great big cry of empathy and kindness that we need to learn and love and like come together and all that. But here where Verdoux is after a great scene where Verdoux just like patiently waiting for the authorities to just kind of recognize him and bring him arrest him and put him on trial. Well, he has this scene with like the priest who's like here to give him his final rites, and he says he has this very grim speech. I actually wrote it down. Sorry, I'm trying to write it down. Yes, he says that that he's made his peace with God. My conflict is with man, and again, he's likening his acts of murder to what business does. That war, the big business of war, the big business of big machinery, that like numbers sanctify. Like again, like they kill, like he kills like a few, but like you kill many, then you're a hero. At least that's how he's justifying it. And it's like, man, it's just really grim. It's such a bleak ending. Here it is. Is war's conflict. It's all business. One murder makes a villain. Villain. Millions a hero. Numbers sanctified, my good fellow. Just that's so bleak. and it's like, well, you kind of have a point, but you still killed a bunch of old ladies. Oh my God, like it's such a fascinating thing to come out of Chaplin. Like it's sort of like how he's just acknowledging business as a typical function. Like it's ruthless, but it's just the way things are. It's especially after what especially after making it with World War II and what he's saying about war. It's quite a feat. It's kind of brave of Chaplin to like kind of intentionally make himself the villain. And it's, man, it's a great movie. I feel like I'm waffling on some, like some of the explanations, but yeah, Verdoux is a fantastic movie. It's hilariously funny. It can be very suspenseful at times. It has this really fun bit, really absolutely fun bits of slapstick, some very focused and very intentional like acts of physicality and intentional dialogues about his like very cynical worldview. That again, it's a bleak movie, but it's also a funny movie too. And yeah, I think you would great. I think I would recommend this to anybody. Though I don't. Though I again, I would familiar. It's best experience if you're familiar with Chaplin's like more lighter movies. With like again, watch The Gold Rush, watch Modern Times, watch City Lights, like all of his like very. There's his great silent comedies first, because then you get the real full impact of the dark, the real gallows humor of Monsieur Verdoux. And yeah, this is a fantastic movie, absolutely one of Chaplin's best. And I can't recommend this enough. I hope I've sold this movie on you. I really wish, it's one of those things where I really wish I could show like clips, but I do what I can. So yeah, that will be, I guess that will be this video, this Letterboxd entry. I will try my best to do catch up on these. I really should be more farther along in these than I am, but yeah, that's I'm Zach. I like movies. Comment, like, subscribe. I will have a lot more movies to watch, and I hope you watch movies too. And I will see you all next time.